We're talking injuries on today's Cowboys Report. We're going to talk 10 players here. We'll give you updates on Tyler Guyton, Micah Parsons, DaRon Bland, Caelen Carson, Eric Kendricks, DeMarcus Lawrence, Zack Martin, Brandin Cooks, Jordan Phillips, and maybe a secret hidden injury on this Cowboys roster right now. But first, overall, with the health of this Dallas Cowboys team, what is your concern level? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1, of course, is the low end. 10 is the high end. Rate your concern level in the comments of today's show. Now, let's look at Micah Parsons to kick things off here. He has a chance to return and play with his high ankle sprain against the 49ers. I would not consider that, though, a lock right now. I don't think it is a guarantee. I think that the overall, last week of practice, or not practice, but recovery into this one is going to matter. We really won't know until, Thursday, Friday, most likely. Mike McCarthy at his midweek press conference earlier said, I don't know, when asked about if Mike was going to play. This is a big week for him. It's a big week for him. He's making progress. I don't think Mike would know either way, because it's too early to tell. He would not have played this week had there been a game. No chance. The earliest window was going to be this game against San Francisco. Then maybe a week after. You could also see a scenario in which Micah plays but is limited and isn't playing every single snap or the same percentage snaps he plays, and he gets more of a pitch count type of deal. Your defense misses him, especially in the pass rush. He's not a premier run defender by any stretch of the imagination. Make no mistake about it. That's just not who he is. But as a pass rusher, he's still really friggin' good. And you have missed him these last couple of games. Now, he didn't get off to the same start this past season. He was good against the Browns. He's still been, if you give any PFF credit, their best graded player. Less than what it was in previous years, make no mistake. If you can ever get into a pass rush situation, this would be the type of player you desperately need out there. So will Micah Parsons play against the 49ers? It is the pinned comments on today's show, so let me know if the ad comes here on YouTube by typing in Y for yes, N for no. Let's stick with the defensive line pass rush here. DeMarcus Lawrence is still on injured reserve, and he likely won't return until some point in November. Now, that could be maybe over under around Thanksgiving, which is, frankly, pretty brutal, all things considered, for this Dallas Cowboys pass rush unit. And they don't have Tank Lawrence. They don't have Marshawn Kneeland. They have Chauncey Golston, Tyrus Wheat, KJ Henry, Carl Lawson right now. It's a pretty bad crew. They don't have the horses up front, because no team can survive being down their top 4 pass rushers. So hopefully Tank comes back, and when he does come back, the season isn't over yet. Let's go to defensive tackle here. Jordan Phillips is eligible to return from injured reserve, but there's been no word on if that's going to happen. If you recall, Jordan Phillips didn't think he needed to go on IR. He thought he was fine. I think what happened, if we're reading tea leaves properly here, the Cowboys weren't too pleased with Jordan Phillips. They're like, hey, bud, we traded for you. You're not playing well. You're not quite in the shape we needed you to be in, so we're going to put your eye on IR with that wrist injury, which I think he did aggravate a little bit, and then we'll figure things out later. Turns out, folks, when you make 0 defensive line moves that matter until August on a bad group, you get bad play out of it. Who would have thought that one would have happened? Go figure, right? We'll see if Phillips ends up playing this year or not. Maybe at some point, but I have very real concerns there. Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. It's quite simple. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a chance to win up to 100 times your cash. You can do that with as little as 4 correct picks, by the way. It is the best place to get action on sports. Over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. The flex play is always a good idea. You can still get one wrong and still cash out. because you don't have to be perfect on Prize Picks. They also offer little free square stuff like Anthony Edwards more than a half point with basketball set to truly return. I'm going to ride my boy Chase's picks this week. He's got more than Brock Purdy, a touchdown pass and a half, and more than a Patrick Mahomes half interception. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS to download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Let's go to Tyler Guyton. Now, Dallas has said Guyton wasn't 100% with that knee injury, and that's why he sat out week 6. There's been enough speculation that maybe that was just a convenient excuse, but if we take them at their word both times, he should be back and good to go against the 49ers. Guyton has not played well enough this season. I think that is very obvious for everyone who has watched him play so far this year, that Guyton has not been good enough. He has struggled. He has had technique woes. He just hasn't been a consistent, reliable left tackle. Now, you kind of knew that going in, that the young, raw guy was going to be the young, raw guy. But you have to get better play. Hopefully he's healthy, and hopefully he starts showing promise. Let's go to DaRon Bland. Now, sounds like he is expected to return for the Cowboys against the 49ers. Now, there had been some real optimism he was going to play last week. Then in what has kind of been a buried quote from Stephen Jones, because there was other Jerry stuff that got everyone's attention, a slight setback happened for Bland. Here's what Stephen said. He had a little setback late in the week in terms of soreness, and we just didn't want to push that issue. We felt like giving him another full 2 weeks to build his confidence, to get out there and not have a setback, was worth not having him out there against the Lions. I think you very much missed DaRon Bland right now, because that's the pick 6 king, right? He was awesome in 2023. Had a couple bad games sprinkled in, but I think those got overblown in the end. Of note for DaRon Bland, sounds like he's going to be back this week. Once that's made official, Dallas will have to add another, or make room for him by putting somebody on IR or cutting somebody. So who are you dumping to make room for DaRon Bland? Maybe it's a corner. Maybe it's somebody else on the roster. Name that player who you're going to cut or put on IR with an injury to get Bland onto the 53-man roster. One sneaky answer could be Caelen Carson, or maybe it just ends up being Andrew Booth, ends up making more sense there. What's curious to me is that Carson practiced in full before the Lions game, but was still a scratch. He did not play despite being a full participant. So maybe he wasn't healthy. Maybe Dallas just didn't like what they were seeing and wanted Booth on special teams, and then just decided to not play Carson at all. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe he just wasn't 100%, kind of like the Tyler Guyton thing. Kind of falls into the same category there. But something has to change in that cornerback room once Bland comes back. He's going to start. It'll be Diggs, Bland, and Lewis. You haven't had those 3 guys starting together the entire season yet. So whether it is probably Carson or Booth, since Izzy helps you out on special teams, somebody's maybe not going to be on that roster anymore. Now, we will have more Cowboys injury news for you as we get it throughout the week. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Let's go to Eric Kendricks here. Now, he was battling 2 injuries this past week, didn't practice at all, a calf and a shoulder. I don't know which injury is worse right now, which raises some concerns overall. I am hopeful that the 2 weeks off is going to be enough to right those ailments for him. I think you missed him. It looked like there were several times against the Lions, your defense just wasn't quite sure where to line up. There was some confusion, some miscommunication, woes. They were trying Damone Clark and Nick Vigil and Maurice Leafau out there alongside DeMarvion Overshown with inconsistent results overall. Vigil was banged up too. He still played, but I don't think he's a great football player. I kind of don't think he should be playing real snaps at all. So hopefully getting Kendricks backs helps out your defense significantly. One that is worth monitoring, and we'll see if he plays through it still. I don't think Zack Martin is 100%. He missed practice last week with a back injury and then had his worst game ever. Objectively speaking, the guy we saw out there against the Lions didn't look like Zack Martin. It did not look like the guy we are so accustomed to. He looked bad. He got beat a ton. He had penalties. It wasn't just getting confused. The O-line did get confused. He got straight up overpowered on some plays. That never happens to Zack Martin. So I'm actually kind of hoping it was a minor back issue that'll be fixed in time for the Niners game and not a lingering one or an issue that's going to cause more problems and just its old age, which are very valid. So is this Zack Martin's last year in the NFL? A for yes, B for no. Go vote in the comments of today's show. Brandin Cooks, look, he has to miss at least 2 more games because he went on IR and the bye week does not count in that 4-game return window. With that knee injury that came because he had the injection that turned into an infection, I think his status more than anybody on this list is a complete unknown. It's not like it's a high ankle sprain, the general time frame. It's an infection. It could be another day. It could be another month. Like, there's really no idea, no way of knowing when Cooks is going to get back outside of us getting real updates from the organization, from Cooks himself. The results this year have not been very good. Why they keep doing so many comeback routes to them, I don't fully understand. I will say, I think Jalen Tolbert should stay in his role once Cooks comes back. And I think you can kind of still utilize Kevontae Turpin and, stop with the Jalen Brooks experiments in the end. But maybe the decline in play from Cooks was because that knee was bothering him. That could be a very real explanation. Let's go to Ezekiel Elliott. Now, this one is the surprise secret injury. Because if you caught that Steelers game, I know we're going back the clock a little bit here. He had a Band-Aid on his shoulder, had a tough time getting those pads on. And I think very valid speculation theory has been, maybe he had an injection, maybe there's something up with his shoulder. Wouldn't be a huge surprise to me. That's part of the issue of signing Zeke. He's been banged up a lot over the past couple years. He's played through it, but he's been banged up. And the production has not been very good. 38 carries, 115 yards. That's just not good. If he is banged up, I really wonder why they're kind of powering through and pushing through it. But maybe there is something up with Zeke.